political scientists and government fans. Now that the 26th Annual United Nations Climate Change Conference has come to an end, I will be reviewing the New York Times 6 takeaways from the UN Climate Conference, as well as some of the ways in which President Biden and his staff showed support for coming to a global consensus on this issue. First, the Biden administration, alongside 200 other countries, fully endorsed the UN's priority to limit the rise in global temperature to just 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit above pre-industrial levels. Second, the United States actually negotiated a joint agreement with China, another major world player and polluter, that committed to ending methane pollution and coal consumption. Third, the United States, alongside Russia, China, and Brazil, officially vowed to ending deforestation by the end of the decade in 2030. Still, citizens and leaders of countries affected directly by climate change remain unconvinced by these efforts, as many island nations have yet to receive the $100 billion aid promised to them with the creation of the Green Climate Fund at COP17 in 2011. Even climate change activists have been quick to criticize COP26's efficacy. And this is why I think climate change appeals to me most: its overwhelming controversy. Both Republican and Democratic Party members take issue with the problem of how to deal with climate change. Activists say the country does not do enough, while skeptics say the country does too much. Especially now, after the former presidential administration denied climate change, withdrew from the Paris Agreement, and still garnered massive support and widespread popularity from throughout the country. Within this context, it's easy to understand why the US has yet to implement any substantive climate change policy. Maybe we're just not ready, and in this regard, I do agree with the New York Times article. I too thank the Biden administration for efforts to reconstruct and re-enlist the country in many of the environmental negotiations and regulations abandoned by the Trump administration. But the lack of legislative nature coming from the US, as well as other world powers, really does concern me. Everyone will suffer the consequences in one way or another if humanity destroys the world through global warming. And since this is an issue that affects the entire world, it must be dealt with by the entire world together, hence the name United Nations. I think it's time for Congress and the President to enact trade bans against countries that have not formally recognized climate change as a global threat and entered a climate accord of the UN's approval within the past decade. Although this means that the US will lose many foreign manufacturers, these bans would open the market up for manufacturers in countries who are committed to fighting climate change just as much as we are. Many products would actually return to domestic production, which could potentially boost employment. I know this policy could ultimately pose a threat to commerce-driven companies overseas, but it's the type of legislation necessary to make them push their domestic administration into following environmentally safe models, because whether they enact climate-safe policy or make international agreements or attend conferences like COP26, the real work happens beyond these walls. Thank you so much.